are you? And where are you going? What do you want?
Hello and welcome to People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel. And normally we're here at 10 a.m. Pacific time, but had a little scheduling mishap for which I am responsible. But fortunately, my guest, Michael Scarpati, hung in there. We got it straightened out. So today it's 10:15 Pacific time and we're starting the show. Very, very happy to have Michael on the show today. So, as you know, People Making Money is about job hunting, about starting and building a business, and building up wealth. So, the whole financial side of life. And Michael has built a tool, an online tool that is particularly adept at helping you with the wealth building side of life. He was kind enough to share it with me, I think a month or two ago, and I looked through it. But you're really going to get the straight stuff from Michael here with a lot of good advice. Now, on Michael's behalf, as I always mention when we have these a guest like Michael, he is not giving you investment advice. Okay, right. let's make that clear. Nor am I, right? When it comes to legal issues, accounting issues, investment issues, you need to talk to your advisors because they will be familiar with your specific situation. Okay, so we're here to give you to help you learn and maybe to put more of a point on it, to learn the questions that you need to be asking in order to get this figured out in the best way for yourself, your family, the loved ones to whom you're responsible. So Michael, thanks for coming on the show today.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks, Kevin, for having me.
And I just have to point out, if you look at the view behind him, okay, that is not a virtual view. That is the real thing. Okay.
Coming to you live from Austin, Texas.
There you go. So Michael, before we get into RetireUS, I always like to ask my guests, how did you, like when you were a kid, right, growing up, did you plan to become, someone involved with helping people learn how to retire? Right? Like I can tell you, I did not, grow up thinking I want to be an independent trustee and probate administrator. That was not, I wanted to be an astronaut at one point. I think I wanted to be an animator at one point. But here I am. So I'm always curious, and I think viewers are too. What was the path that took you to the point of creating RetireUS?
That's funny. We somehow we end up here, but it's not necessarily what we thought when we were kids. It depends on what age we wanted to start at. If it was 5, 6 years old, I'd probably tell you I wanted to be a Power Ranger. And now, flash forward here 30 plus years later, it's being an entrepreneur, founding this company, RetireUS. And I think my entire life, there's always been that entrepreneurial bug, the entrepreneurial spirit. It's actually kind of funny. I found an old, like a sketchbook from when I was a kid. And there was some drawings in there of like Scarpati Enterprises. So somehow deep down, and it probably comes from my upbringing. Both of my parents are entrepreneurial, and my grandfather on my mother's side was a self-made man. Started actually as a janitor of a bank up in northwestern Pennsylvania, and worked his way up to becoming chairman and CEO of that same bank and expanding it. Wow. So that entrepreneurial spirit has always kind of been a part of my life. And so I didn't know necessarily where it would land, but RetireUS came through being in the financial services industry. So you said the disclosure very well. We're not here to give financial investment advice. My job and objective is to help raise awareness, help raise the consciousness level of people, and how we really take a look at our own finances and how we understand how the finances really need to integrate with our life and kind of who we are and how we're making decisions in a way that move us closer and closer towards our vision for the future and whatever that may be, and how we can kind of build wealth along the way versus unconsciously having our behavior get us further and further away from those goals. And so, the platform really was built out of being in the financial services industry for over 15 years
Mhm.
and just seeing a lot of issues that exist. The financial services industry, the way that it is designed right now, does not serve the consumer public to the best of its ability. It's very broken. And RetireUS was really built out of, in my opinion, necessity to serve a much wider market than just these high net worth individuals where, financial services tend to be marketed more towards. We don't want to work with the 1% to 2% of wealth earners. We want to help support the 98%. That's really the true mission of this organization.
So when you say that the financial services industry or the processes for it are broken, would you be more specific? What specifically is wrong, and or how specifically does it not serve the interests of the overwhelming number of people who, like you say, they're not in the 1% to 2%?
So it has to do with fiduciary duty. It has to do with fiduciary duty, fiduciary responsibility. And in a nutshell, for your audience, what that means is the advisor or the professional that you're working with, in the eyes of the law, do they have to give you advice that is in your best interest?
Mhm.
Right? Objectively, it's in your best interest. And the surprising truth, which is shocking, is that almost 85 to 90% of licensed professionals do not have that standard when they're giving their recommendations and their advice. And the reason for that is because the vast majority of financial professionals don't work for you. They work for an investment institution, and you are the customer of that investment institution. That financial professional is not an employee or a person that's kind of on your payroll, if that makes sense. And so because of that, priorities get skewed in terms of who is, what is the financial services industry really here to serve at the end of the day? And, to the best of the ability, it's not the consumer, it's the investment institution. And it's just something that we need to be aware of, right? The independent fiduciary financial professional is hard to come by, right? It's hard to find. Most of the professionals out there don't check those boxes. They're not independent, meaning they actually don't work for you, right? They work for a specific institution, right? You're not hiring them to work on your behalf. And they're non-fiduciary, which means they don't actually need to be giving you investment advice. And sometimes they can't, because the scope in which they can provide products or services is limited by the ecosystem in which they operate, AKA the institution that they really represent. And so it's just kind of, this is the nature of it. I don't think most people are aware of it. And, as a result, people have trust issues when it comes to working with financial professionals. And of course they do.
Yeah. So it's interesting because this is an idea or a concept that's near and dear to my heart, because here in California we have something called a professional fiduciary.
Mhm.
And it's a licensed profession. Now, it doesn't relate to financial planning or those kinds of things. It's what enables me, for example, to serve as a probate administrator or a trustee, et cetera.
Yep.
But this idea of acting in a fiduciary capacity is central, certainly to my profession. in a prior life, I was a real estate broker. And again, I had a fiduciary duty to my client. So I always had to act in the best interest of my client. Right. And there have been some things happening in the real estate business over the last, whatever it's been, 6 months or a year, to help clarify exactly, to whom does a real estate agent owe that fiduciary obligation? Is it to the seller? Is it to the buyer? Is it to both? But for many, many years, real estate agents, at least in California, have had to make a written disclosure about to whom they owe that fiduciary duty. And I know that for a while, I won't mention the company because I don't want to cast aspersions, but a few years ago, I was working with a company where I had a Series 7, I think it was, and I think it was a 63 or something, right? I had a number of securities licenses, and it was interesting because, and this is one of the reasons I didn't continue working with it, is although I had all of these licenses, I had 4 in total. What I realized was, because my compensation was coming from the company for whom I worked, I didn't have a fiduciary obligation to the individuals that I would be advising. And I felt that I was working at cross purposes, because in order to make a living, or in order to make money, I would have to push products on them that perhaps they didn't really need. On the other hand, if I only did what they needed, I probably wasn't going to be able to make the kind of money that I wanted to make. And I think that's a quandary that many people who are in the financial services industry find themselves, right? We need to earn a living, take care of our families, et cetera. And yet we don't want to feel ethically conflicted. So I'm curious, your thoughts on that issue.
Well, first of all, very well said. What super well explained. Like that is the majority of the licensed professionals, though, right? They do represent the institution, or that's where the paycheck is ultimately coming from. The independent track is the entrepreneurial track, where you're building your book of business, you're creating your clients brick by brick, and you're generally getting compensated in really 2 major ways. One way is through either flat fee, you're charging a flat fee, kind of like a retainer, like an attorney would charge. But if you're not managing assets as well, those flat fees tend to be $5,000, $10,000 a year. And that is a whole line that you can go directly to a fiduciary, and they're not managing money, though. They're building you systems. Their objective is to actually help you understand how all the facets of your financial life work together, and start to put process in place, building systems and process of how your cash flow interacts with your long-term tax liabilities, and how that is all driven towards retirement and your short-term savings, and it's all going to work into the legacy plan. Those flat fee fiduciary planners are building those systems. Now, the problem is, because they're not managing money, they have to, they charge a lot for that. Most people are priced out of the market to work with that systems fiduciary. The other side is the independent fiduciary that is a product fiduciary. And there's plenty, they have an open architecture, which means they can vet the entire marketplace. They can access things that the most retail investors a lot of times have never even heard of, but they have asset minimums, because there's only so much time in the day, right? And so this is the quandary. This is the issue that is just created by the nature of the industry. There's only a small sector of them to begin with, because it's the entrepreneurial path. Most people turn over within the first 6 to 24 months of going down that path, because of just the time it takes to build up your client base and build that revenue that you can support yourself. And once you get there, basically people move up market, right? There's only so much time in the day. As an independent product advisory, fiduciary, if that's the hat that I'm wearing, it takes me the same amount of time to work with someone that has $100,000 that has $1 million. The difference is I'm going to get paid 10 times as much to work with a person with $1 million. So guess what? This is what happens. Those professionals are in the business to make a living as well, right? They want to help people. They want to make a living as well. So they move up market. And so there's just less and less capacity available for people that don't have these don't meet these asset minimums.
Hmm.
And so that's the problem that we're presented with. And so what we've built with the RetireUS platform is basically a way to leverage technology to streamline the process, not only for the consumer to make it really easy and digestible and easy to get started, but then to match them with independent fiduciaries. And the tech that we've actually created to enable those independent fiduciaries allows them to close to 10x their output. So instead of having to spend 35 hours doing casework and a lot of more of the mundane tasks that are required for each client that comes in, we're able to shrink that considerably and allow them to spend way more time with clients, actually having the impactful conversations and explaining the nuances and the systems that need to be put in place. And it allows us to open up that lane of access now without the asset minimums and without the heavy flat fees.
So, a company that's been in the news a lot lately, I think because it's a meme stock, is Robinhood. That's probably the best known sort of technology based or fintech company.
Yep.
How is RetireUS different from Robinhood? Not to pick on Robinhood, but just as because I think most of these fintech companies follow the Robinhood model. And my sense is that RetireUS is a different model than that. So distinguish for us between the two.
Yeah, and it really is. And so the big distinguishing factor is RetireUS is all about leveraging technology to blend that with human relationships. So we
Okay.
want to keep the human element. In our opinion, finance is something that is extremely human in nature. It may be the math that drives a lot of the decision making, but there's a lot of emotional components and nuance that does require human connectivity to truly understand what is going to be the right path for any given individual. Robinhood and a lot of the other robo advisors. Robinhood's more of a do-it-yourself. It's more of a platform. It's almost like a brokerage platform, kind of similar old school to like a TD Ameritrade, something along those lines, except it's a little bit more intuitive, user-friendly, gives the everyday person access to trade themselves without having to kind of go through like a stock broker. You can
Okay.
buy and sell and do things yourself through the Robinhood platform. There's other models out there that are more robo advisors, right? Robo advisors are kind of going all the way in the direction of using the AI algorithms to be your advisor, right? So you complete the questionnaire yourself, you give it your risk tolerance, your goals, and then it'll take that information and put together a portfolio for you, right, on your behalf. And so that's a little bit different than say the Robinhood. RetireUS is blending the tech components of that, the ease, the frictionless, the way to get started on your own without having to go through a bunch of hurdles, but then blending that ultimately with human beings, the actual independent fiduciaries themselves that you can meet with one-on-one to map things out and kind of get all of your finances aligned the way they need to be.
So okay, so this is interesting, and I have actually I couldn't tell you a name of a robo advisor, but it strikes me if I'm working with a robo advisor and it's asking me all these questions, what do I do if I don't really know the answer to a question that it's asking me, right? Because I'm sure you know this, and probably a lot of the people watching this know. Anytime you fill out any kind of online application or even paper application for some kind of financial account that has an investment aspect, one of the things they ask you is your risk tolerance.
Yep.
And I always look at those and then my eyes kind of glaze over because to my mind, they're very oversimplified.
Definitely.
On the one hand, and the way they're described is completely obtuse.
Yep.
So unless someone's a pretty sophisticated in financial matters, I would think they're going to look at that and go, I don't know, risky sounds too risky, right?
Yeah.
They're all going to end up in the middle category, right? Which may not necessarily be the right decision for them. And if they had someone that they could ask a question to and could get clarification and education on these points, they might very well answer it differently. So again, I'm curious what your thoughts about that aspect, because it seems to me that this is one of the problems that RetireUS is seeking to solve.
Yeah, without a doubt. The risk tolerance questionnaire is the antiquated spirit of traditional financial planning and investment advice, right? That questionnaire has been around forever. And I think that most people don't actually really recognize what that's even gauging, right? There's a major difference between risk tolerance and risk capacity, right?
Mhm.
Risk tolerance, it's talking about our ability to endure risk, right? So if I asked you what is your pain tolerance, right? You're
Uh-huh.
going to tell me how much pain you can endure until enough is enough, right? And you got to give up.
Right.
And that's what risk tolerance questionnaires are really measuring. It's how much emotional pain can you endure when the
Mhm.
markets are going down, right? And at
Mhm.
what point would you say, I got to pull the plug? I can't do this anymore.
Mhm.
That does not tell us anything related to what's the measure of risk you actually should be taking, right? Your risk capacity based off of your goals, based off of your timeline, based off of how much you have saved right now that you need to grow over time. What's the amount that you actually can lose until that goal becomes in jeopardy? Totally different thing, right? Totally different thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
The risk tolerance questionnaire doesn't answer that. And this is where the nuance comes into play, right? A lot of times people don't know how to answer these questions. And that's where the human component is so integral, right? It's helping you kind of come to the decision yourself through some additional seeking to understand empathy of your situation. I mean, the human guidance, we did a lot of market research. About 85% of consumers want human beings
Mhm.
when it comes to financial professionals. They want human beings to work with because I think we all understand intuitively that it's hard for something that's operating in ones and zeros to understand emotion and really how we feel, right?
Right. I mean, there's these AIs, they kind of project a sense of emotional connection, but they really don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
I have a follow-up question on it, but let's take a sponsor break and we'll be right back.
perfect.
When life brings unexpected changes, managing inherited property shouldn't add to your stress. Magnum Properties specializes in probate and trust real estate management. We handle the complexities while you focus on what matters most. From property maintenance to tenant relations, from legal compliance to maximizing value, we're your trusted partner through every step. Magnum Properties Inc., turning property challenges into peace of mind. Call us today at 213 264 4396 or visit magnumprops.com. So we're back here at People Making Money. I'm your host, Kevin Bemmel, and my guest is Michael Scarpati, who is the founder of RetireUS. And we've been talking about, really what is sort of the heart and soul of RetireUS and what makes it different than, say, a Robinhood, which is so well known, or a robo advisor. And Michael was just talking about the necessity of the kind of human interaction that RetireUS brings um, to financial planning for the 98% of us who are not a Warren Buffett or whoever, right? And how most people really want that human connection needed in order to really understand what needs to happen. So Michael, my follow up question is, and I think that people oftentimes get confused with um, establishing financial goals and taking the necessary steps to reach them and being maybe a prudent investor, because on the face of it, that can sometimes be, it would seem to be in conflict, maybe, right? Because you hear all these nostrums around, you should have 40% bonds and 60% stocks, or whatever you're doing, all these things that fly around, right? And so I'm curious how RetireUS helps people figure out what really are my financial goals, and then what are the ways that I can reach them, and um, what are the implications of those various options for reaching those goals?
Most people are driving in a car without a map, right? Most people, the financial tools, the investments, the mutual funds, your 401k, they're vehicles. This is all they are. They're vehicles. But a vehicle is only as good as the map that is navigating where that vehicle needs to go, right? And if
Mhm.
that map is incorrect, or we don't even have a map, it's impossible to understand and hold those investments accountable, right? We like to, as human beings, we love rules of thumb.
Mhm.
40%, if you're in your 50s, you have 40% equity, 60% bonds, whatever that may be. And it's all BS. It's complete BS, because it all depends on you. It all depends on your situation. If your retirement goal says you need $2 million and you have $2.5 million right now, and you're 50 years old, and whatever that's your objective, is to retire at 50, that's what you need. Guess what? Your game plan is way different. Your map is way different than somebody who's 50 years old and is retiring in 20 years, right?
Mhm.
Or isn't, quite on pace. Protection may be the biggest thing that's important to you,
Mhm.
because you have a lot more to lose in a given year or two than you have to gain in a year or two, right? One major good year may not change anything for you, right?
Right.
But one really bad year could set you back, or could completely destroy your ability to retire. These are the things that really make this such a personal journey. This is, it's great to get started with rules of thumb, right? If that's the catalyst for us to just begin and take action, great. But once we really start, then we really should take a check and say, are we actually on the right path, right? Is there any type of accountability that we can tie to our decision making right now? Or are we just kind of navigating blindly, hoping that we end up in, at the beach?
We got our cane out, and we're looking to get there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So let me, if it's okay, let me, I'll share my screen, and I'll
sure.
show people your website so they can see it, and maybe if you want to sort of, point out some things about it, so they can get an idea of what this can do for them.
Thank you. Yeah, the top is really, you deserve financial freedom. The mission of the company, right? The whole mission is to provide what we consider to be a better path to financial freedom. And that is one that is easily working with fiduciaries, people that we know we can trust, independent fiduciary planners. It's one that's very frictionless. It's easy. It only takes about 15 minutes for you to onboard data, to get ready to have your first impactful meeting with a professional. And then there's no high fees or asset minimums. Instead, we have a very cost effective subscription model depending on what you're looking to accomplish. The lowest starting point is $60, less than $60 a month for basic planning. And you get steep discounts, 33% discount if you pay for that annually. So on the annual amount, it's only about $40 a month, and you can work with independent fiduciary planners to really put together the map, right? And the map should be the thing that dictates the rest. A really good graphic that I think helps paint the picture is if you click the About Us page there at the top, there's this graphic that shows right here. See this second block, this three, all advisors aren't the same, and it's a little small and maybe hard to read for the viewers, but this is kind of the big story. There's these three types of financial professionals that you can work with. The benefits advisor is the one at the bottom. This is the one through the workplace. You have questions about the 401k, you give them a call. Now, they're not going to tell you anything outside of what's held right there at the workplace because it's just outside of their scope of work, but it's a good starting point, basically where most people begin the journey. Second's the product-based financial professional, and this is what dominates the industry, right? This is what most people think when they think financial planner or financial advisor. It's product first. It's my portfolio, my stocks, my bonds, my mutual funds, and there's value here, tremendous value. However, having an open architecture is the biggest thing we want to look for, right? Is the product advisor giving you advice? Are they representing the institution in which those products will ultimately flow? Or are they able to vet the entire marketplace and be product agnostic, right? They can actually bring assets to all sorts of institutions, right? That's the kind that you really want because that provides the most optionality and it provides the highest level and highest probability that there being a fiduciary also in the process. And then the last is the system.
Sorry, before you go on to the last one, just to sort of put a point on the products one, how does the financial product side of this? I mean, is this like dealing with, say, a State Farm insurance agent versus an independent insurance agent, where the State Farm agent, he's going to sell you a State Farm policy because that's who he represents, versus an independent agent, he's going to be able to, shop your insurance needs across whatever, 100 insurance companies or, whatever, however many he deals with. Is that, as an example, what you're talking about in terms of independence versus institution focused?
Yep. Great analogy. That's exactly how you want to look at it. Is the investment professional themselves, who do they really represent? Do they represent you, or do they represent the institution where these products will ultimately land? Right.
Right. Okay.
And
gotcha.
It's the vast majority of financial professionals are product professionals that are tied to institutions. And so this is where it starts to get tricky and where you got to really do your due diligence to understand who is the person on the other side of the table and who do they truly represent. And then that brings you to the systems professional. The systems professional, now these are the flat fee typically, right? They're going to charge $5,000, $10,000 a year, and they're putting together systems for you. They're really looking to build the framework so that you can make decisions with intent. And now the secret that most people aren't aware of is that this is really the starting point. You should start with the systems. Most people start from the bottom. They start with their benefits workplace. They then start to build up some savings outside of the workplace. They supplement that with products, and then they never really put a system in place, right? The most successful people start from the top right and work counterclockwise. They put together a system first. That system then dictates the products that will work best for the system they've put in place, and then they supplement that decision-making with how they're going to leverage the benefits through the workplace. And so that's how financial mastery is truly created.
So, and your graphic here, I think, is spot on, because you've got, the person, right? This starting with systems makes it person focused, as opposed to starting with benefits or products where it's focused on something else, which, would appear only coincidentally, serve the individual.
And that's the thing in this graphic, and if you want to go take a look, RetireUS, next to each of them, it explains the different approach that they take. And that's you hit the nail on the head. If you look under benefits, it's a time-based approach typically where the advice is being given, meaning you have your workplace benefits advisor says, all right, you want to retire at year 2035 or at age 65 or 35 years of service, right? And it's all kind of built around this point in time, which is important, but that's where the guidance starts and ends, right? You want to take that point in time, then continue to expand on it and start to set goals around that point in time and start to understand exactly what that point in time means for you in the future, right? Based off of your lifestyle and your expectations. And that's where these different approaches are really key. And like you said, system starts with the human, which is all unique. Every single situation is going to be different. We start there first, and then the rest starts to kind of follow that framework and fit into place.
I mean, the more you talk about this, the more sense it makes because, if you're talking to your benefits manager about, say your 401k, right? And you're telling him, okay, I want to retire, let's say in, 40 years. I mean, that's fine, but what's going to happen in that 40 years? I mean, it's the only thing you're going to be doing for the next 40 years is working toward retiring. Or, are you going to get married? Are you going to have children? Are you going to start a business? Are you going to, are you going to take some time off to travel, which, is a much more popular thing to do among, I think it's okay for me to call them younger people. I have the gray hair to do it, right? But I mean, these ideas or how we live our lives, we have so many more options these days. And when it comes to planning our finances, if the person we're talking to is not asking us these life based questions, it occurs to me that they're not really going to be able to give us sound advice.
Yeah, I mean, there's levels to the whole thing. If you want to actually go back to the homepage real quick, I'll show you another graphic
Sure.
that basically hits on exactly what you're talking about. If you go back to, if you scroll down a couple slides, you're going to see kind of a mountain that's going to come up. Keep going, right here. There you go.
Okay.
So we kind of break this down into different levels, and you'll see there's 6 key areas that we're focused on, these financial milestones. And then to the right-hand side, you kind of see, we categorize it as various levels of financial wellness or overall financial health or financial consciousness. And what you'll notice here, current situation, risk and insurance, short-term savings, retirement, tax diversification, legacy. Not in one place do you see investments, right? Because investments should be a result of a plan, right? Just because you have an investment portfolio does not mean you have a plan. And that's the big key here, is putting the systems, building the plans first, so that then we are able to hold those investments, hold that portfolio accountable. That's the key that a lot of people miss. They just kind of get started, but there's no true plan that's really driving that decision making forward.
So again, it's very interesting what you're saying, and it really resonates with me because in my work, I oftentimes see the results of a lack of planning.
Yeah.
Because somebody dies, they have no estate plan. Now the court is going to oversee the administration of their estate. And so often, because there is no plan, the beneficiaries or the heirs start fighting, right? And a lot of the accumulated wealth gets diminished because of the cost of the probate working its way through the court, et cetera, number one. And number two, people that someone might have wanted helped out or protected, I may not be able to legally help them out at all.
Yeah.
So I've got one case right now where the decedent had a longtime partner, but he did not marry this person, and then he died. And now his partner of 30 years, legally, I cannot give him a penny because the partner doesn't qualify as an heir, right? And
Right.
so unfortunately, the planning wasn't done. And so there's the end result.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we don't rise to the level of our goals. We fall to the level of our systems. And so that's what this is all about. When you start to do real planning, in a lot of senses, you're planning for the worst and hoping for the best, right? You're actually putting the contingency strategies in place because we cannot control what the stock market's going to do, but we can control our exposure. And if we understand our risk capacity in conjunction with our risk tolerance, we can start to put systems in place so that the market volatility may not necessarily derail things, right? And so it's all about clarity, right? Consciousness and being aware of the true needs and this process is really designed to make that as simple as possible, to give us that clarity so that, if the worst does happen, we're prepared for it. We hope that the best happens and things will be great in that scenario as well. But most people are kind of just blindly hoping that the markets will take them to the promised land. And sometimes that will be true. Many times it will not be. It's all going to depend on your timing and your risk. But that's what when we're building true systems, that's what we're looking to get a little bit more control over.
And so you mentioned a few minutes ago, sort of to join the platform, it's a monthly subscription. If you pay it on an annual basis, you're talking around $40 a month. That's not even $500 a year. And clarify again for us, what does someone get as a subscriber to RetireUS? Obviously, they get access to all the resources here on the platform. What does that entail? And I mean, is it additional cost to talk to one of the independent fiduciary financial advisors? Does the cost go up as you work your way up up the mountain here? How does that work so people can get a broader picture of the journey that you're looking to help them take?
It's a great question. And what's unique about the platform is that the subscription, the price of admission gets you access to those independent fiduciaries and their planning. So you do, through the subscription itself, you get to work directly with these independent professionals included in that cost. And they will, depending on where you kind of want to prioritize your mountain up here, where you want to go, right? If you want to get to the summit, that's going to entail, additional layers of planning. And so essentially these are the areas of focus based off of the tiers that you select. Now, level 1 mindfulness is actually our free tier. So, and that's all about getting a grip on the current financial situation. So in that free tier, you have access to a couple of different tools that we offer to give you analysis. One of them is called a financial checkpoint. It's about a 4-minute to 5-minute quiz that you go through, and it's going to give you an immediate analysis on your retirement pacing, your tax planning, and it also pulls out, we call them financial red flags. And these are kind of the blind spots. These are the areas within the current situation that we should probably dig a little bit deeper into, right? Or at least start to become more aware of, because they're the things that are probably standing in our way from getting to the next levels of the mountain. And so that's I encourage everybody to go to RetireUS. You can get started for free with that free financial checkpoint. That will at least give you an idea of kind of where you stand and what might be some areas you need to further evaluate. And then when you're ready, you can upgrade to basic planning to get started with those first 4 foundational areas: the retirement, the short term, the risk, and the current situation.
Excellent. Okay, so you already answered my follow-up question, which is how can people get started with this without having to make a financial commitment? So that's great. So they can start out doing figuring out their current situation and then build from there. So do you, on the platform, is it you're looking to find the independent fiduciary with whom you work the best and are most comfortable, or is it you're going to work with a variety of fiduciaries depending on what the particular financial need or goal is? Talk a little bit about how that works and how the interaction works with these fiduciaries. Do you work through the platform? Are you working with those people off platform? How does that interaction happen?
Yeah, great question. So it's all meant to be designed so that the platform helps connect you and streamlines the process of communication, meetings, data gathering, analysis, and ultimately is the glue of the process, making it very simple and streamlined. And so based off of your goals and your concerns and your progress and kind of where you are, based off of that financial checkpoint, and then the profile that you complete, we're going to match you with a fiduciary that is essentially going to work very well within your stage of planning and kind of what your major focuses are.
Mhm.
And from there, the platform is the connector, and you'll do virtual meetings with that same professional typically. So you start to kind of build out this relationship. You can always, if for whatever reason you don't love the professional that you're with, you always have the opportunity or the ability to ask to be reassigned. But
Okay.
we've actually never had that happen. So we do a pretty good job of matching people
Okay.
with the ones that will work well within what they're focused on, and
Mhm.
then we get the process into a cadence. So it's really about, instead of this being a gigantic overhaul and a big overwhelming thing right up front, we actually segment the process into two key stages.
Mhm.
So goal planning comes first, where it's all about getting clarity, right? Where are we now in relation to where we need to be? What does that mean for whether or not we're on pace, and what our investments should be doing to get into alignment with that vision?
Mhm.
And then once that's established, then we actually cycle over to cash flow planning. So goal
Mm.
planning comes first to kind of make sure the ships are rowing in the right direction, and then cash flow planning comes in to make sure that there's efficiencies that are not being missed, right? That we're taking advantage of all the things we can do to expedite the success, to speed the boat up, if you
Mhm.
will, and reconcile the goals that we set, right? We set a retirement goal kind of based off of, higher level data. Once we start to look at cash flow and see what our lifestyle really costs, it helps us reconcile and make sure that we're definitely pointed in the right direction. And then that process repeats itself over
Mhm.
time. So after cash flow planning, things are going to happen, markets are going to move, tax laws are going to change, goals may shift, and we need to reevaluate the goals. And so then we go back to cash flow, then we go back to goals, and it gets us into a really good cadence pretty
Mhm.
much every 6 months, where you're just kind of getting into a financial routine that's really designed to help you build wealth, right? So it holds accountability to our decision making and gives us clarity on what we should be doing, day in and day out.
Got it. Throughout the show today, we've been talking about, we've been talking from the perspective of someone who, needs to have a financial plan, et cetera. I'm curious, what opportunity is there, if any, for people who do independent fiduciary financial planning and are maybe, disillusioned with, the sort of institution slash product representation side, and would really like to be involved in the kind of in giving the kind of advice and working with people in the way that RetireUS facilitates. What opportunity might there be, for those folks?
There's tremendous opportunity. Give us a call. If you fit that boat, give us a call, because there is a ton of opportunity. The entire objective of the platform is to either, one, create more independent fiduciary planners, and we have tracks for that, which can connect you with
Hmm.
existing RIAs that can bring you into that track if it's something that you're interested in pursuing. Or two, if you already are an independent fiduciary and are starting to find capacity is becoming an issue, you would like to offer your services and be able to facilitate many more client household meetings throughout the course of the year, but find yourself being capped for capacity. We have solutions for that as well. That's really the objective here. So, we're a platform experience. We are a platform company. We cater to both sides of the market, right? Which is the independent fiduciaries and the consumers themselves. So just reach out to us. You can connect with us right on retire.us. And, we would be happy to have a conversation with you, because we're always looking to expand the opportunities for both sides of the market.
Okay, and the fiduciaries, they're working for a registered independent advisory, I assume.
Yep.
And do they have to already be licensed, or can you help them, get licensed? Not to get too much in the weeds, but just curious about that.
Yeah, I mean, we have in the past, through one of the RIAs that we're partnered with, we have had training programs to support that. So there's always opportunities there. We're in the business of never saying never, right? When it comes to things, especially as we continue to scale and open up the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
So we're always open to looking at various paths. So if you're out there, you're a financial professional and you are interested in going down or going down the financial professional track, we have some potential opportunities there. The easiest opportunities for sure are the ones that are already connected with an RIA.
Right.
If you're a solo practitioner or if you're part of a larger RIA, there's a lot of support that we can bring to the equation to make things more scalable.
Excellent. So, we're running short on time here, but I want to make sure, before we end the show, um, uh, you know, are there aspects of RetireUS that we haven't discussed that you'd like for the viewers to know about? And so, kind of as a wrap up to the show, certainly want to give you an opportunity to to bring those up.
Oh, I appreciate that. I mean, I think you did a really great job of kind of navigating through all the different components of it. The big thing that I've found and through the market research that we've done is that the major reason people do not get started in this process is they don't know who to trust. They feel like it's going to take too much of their time. They
Hmm.
feel like it's going to be too complicated and complex, and they're worried about whether or not they'll qualify for it, whether that means asset minimums or just the overall out-of-pocket cost. And RetireUS is really designed to solve all of those problems for you and make it really easy to at least take the first step, right?
Hmm.
Taking the first step is the biggest reason most people miss their opportunity to create financial freedom earlier in their life. And it's because they do not take action. Finance is one of the easiest things for us to procrastinate.
Hmm.
And what we found is that just trying to make it as easy as possible to take that first step, get some clarity, what you'll find is that the second step is way easier. And the third step's even easier than that. And everything then starts to fall into place. But getting out of your own way to take that first step is the challenge. It really is the challenge with this stuff.
Yeah.
And so, hopefully with the platform, we've made that as easy as possible to at least take that first step. And, once you get that first step out of the way, everything else kind of starts to fall into place a lot easier.
Well, yeah, well said. I mean, like I said, I see it on the estate planning side. I mean, but it's so true. Um, taking that first step, it's like we're babies again, and we're literally taking that first physical step. There's many times during our lives when we need to do that, whether it's starting a business, whether it's dealing with creating a financial plan, etc. So, Michael, I really appreciate you coming on the show today. I just very, very clear explanations, not just of what RetireUS is about, which presumably you're the expert, but just of what people need to do in order to take control of their financial lives and really get on that wealth building journey. And I would add, and this is my impression, uh, you know, even if you are already started your wealth building journey, if you're not satisfied with how it's going, I would recommend you give retire.us a try, because it may very well be a better solution for you, and it may help you stay on that journey better than what you're doing right now. And in the end, this is our financial futures or the road to our financial futures is typically a fairly long road. And so we're gonna make some changes along the way. And so I recommend that you check out RetireUS and see if this is a better solution for you. So
I appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much. And believe it or not, most of the users on the platform have had or have one financial professional or more that they've either worked with traditionally. It's
Mhm.
just a very different approach and perspective that most people have never really experienced. So
Mhm.
I think you can make the argument that we add some of the most value to people that have actually already started and have had experience with a financial professional historically, because they already value that process, except a
Mhm.
lot of times they don't know what they don't know yet, and this is one of
Right.
those opportunities to kind of really expand our understanding of what is all out there and what we can be doing, and it can go a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, I will say I'll add one thing to that, and that is in my practice, where I'm essentially responsible for the management of other people's money. I only work with independent fiduciary wealth advisors and financial professionals because I can't afford to
Right.
have someone who is doing something that is not in a fiduciary capacity, because then that redounds to me. And I'll say on a personal level, when I made the change in my life from product focused financial professionals to, in essence, independent fiduciary professionals, and saw the difference in the interaction, it, it was it was it was really eye opening for me, and
Yeah.
a much more pleasant experience that really then engaged me more deeply in what I needed to do. And in the end, that's what it is. We need to be engaged in our own financial futures. And so what, again, I'll say this, I think what Michael has created here is a more effective way for most of us to be engaged in dealing with our financial futures, and so therefore we will do so more effectively. And that's, in the end, that's the name of the game.
Then that's the mission. You know, this is a mission driven organization, and it's come out of being in the industry for so long and just seeing a lot of bad financial plans is the reality, right? After 15 years in the business, you talk to a lot of people that say, "Oh, I've had a financial advisor for years. I have a financial plan." And then when you look at it from this other perspective, we go, there's a lot missing here. There's a lot of things that stones have not yet been turned over, and
Right.
underneath them there could be some scary things. So we gotta put a couple more frameworks in place to really make this rock solid, and those things happen often, and it's just because very few people have true access to this premium level of perspective when it comes to the financial guidance side of things. So we're excited to be of service however we can. I'm super grateful, Kevin, for that you allowed me to come on your platform just to spread our message a little bit.
Absolutely.
You want to get in touch with us, retire.us is the website, but also on socials on Instagram and LinkedIn at retire.us are also great places to follow us as well for a lot of content education that will help educate you and potentially help you know what learn some of those things that are the blind spots.
There you go. So, and Michael, I will put all of those links in the show notes to this episode. So after it posts on YouTube, right after the show ends, I go and I update all of that. So for those of you who watching, if you didn't have a chance to write down the URL and the Instagram and such, all of that will be in the show notes for you. And I encourage you to follow up on those, to follow retire.us on LinkedIn and Instagram, and get that education that's so necessary. So Michael, I can't thank you enough for dealing with the scheduling mishap and coming on the show today. I'm gonna if you don't mind hanging tight for just a minute, I'll quickly wrap up the show and then we can talk offline for a moment.
Sure.
So folks, those of you who are, we've had a few live viewers. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a kick to know that there are people watching us as we record the show. This is the last show for this week. Next week, Monday these are all Pacific time at 10 a.m. is my show, Trust and Estates Weekly. On Tuesday at 10 a.m. is my show, Business Lessons from the Military. And then a week from today, I'll be back with the next edition of People Making Money. And then next week is my every other week show, Jiggers' Place, where we're gonna it's at 5 p.m. Okay, Pacific time, 8 p.m. on the East Coast, and we're gonna sit back, we have a cocktail, and we talk about all the non-financial issues of life as we head into the end of the week. Because and Michael pointed this out at the beginning of the show. Finances are not the end game. Our lives are the end game. Our finances are how we help create the life that we want to live for ourselves, our families, our loved ones. So join me next week, Thursday, 5 p.m. Pacific time, for a cocktail and a schmooze at Jiggers' Place. So again, Michael, thank you so much for coming on the show, and looking forward to seeing you all next week. Signing off as I always do. Marie, darling, you are my belle. You know you are. Courage at all times, my friends.